hopefully seconds or minutes, we will have one special session by our colleague Ian Mansfield of the Mine Action Support Group Secretariat. The session by Ian will be a short one before the closing ceremony, where it will be about looking back to look forward 25 years of NDM UN. Ian, we now are ready for you. You have the floor, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bruno. Dear colleagues, thank you for inviting me to speak about the past 25 years of the annual meeting of National Mine Action Directors and UN Advisors. As the only person to have participated in all 25 meetings, it's a great honour for me to be here and share some reflections with you today. Next slide. I'd like to start by briefly outlining why this meeting came about. The United Nations was directly involved with the start of the humanitarian mine action sector. It established programs in Afghanistan in 1989 and in Cambodia in 1992. Later, the Department of Peacekeeping was involved in setting up programs in Mozambique and Angola in 1993 and 94 respectively. The only problem was that each program was set up independently and reported to different parts of the UN headquarters. For example, I was the UN program manager in Afghanistan at the time, and we had no contact or interaction with any of the other programs. We were desperate to find out lessons learned and challenges faced in these other countries. In an attempt to address this problem, the first international meeting was organised by the Schiebel Mine Detector Company in Austria in 1993. And it was attended by representatives from Afghanistan, Cambodia, Mozambique and Kuwait. Another meeting was organised in Sweden in 1994, and it was attended by a wide range of interests. It was actually an interesting meeting. There were mine designers, mine makers, mine sellers, deminers, donors, NGOs and the works. A high-level UN diplomatic meeting was held in Geneva in 1995. This meeting was opened by the Secretary-General, Kofi Annan, and it was also the meeting where the UN Voluntary Trust Fund was established. But it was also recognised at that time that they saw a need to include an operational segment in this meeting. By this time, there were growing calls, particularly by donors, for more interaction, consistency and standards in mine action. So when UNMAS was formed in 1997, one of their first steps was to arrange the initial National Directors meeting. Next slide. The first meeting was held in March 1998 at the UN Palais here in Geneva, and it was hosted by the Government of Switzerland. Part of the program is shown on the slide here. It's a bit too small to read, but you will see it was called a meeting of field staff. This was changed to the current title the following year to reflect the growing role and importance of the national directors. The first meeting was attended by a total of 45 people from the United Nations and from 7 mine-affected countries: Angola, Afghanistan, Bosnia, Cambodia, Croatia, Laos and Mozambique. The meeting ran for 3 days, including Saturday, and the topics discussed included resource mobilisation, technology, standards, information management and the UN policy. Due to the success of this first meeting, it was decided to hold the meeting each year. Next slide. As you can see on this slide, the meeting grew quickly. Not all the years are listed on the slide, but you can see that additional mine action partners, such as new countries, NGOs, donors and commercial companies, were progressively invited to join the meeting over the years. From a modest beginning with 45 people, over 1,000 people registered for the meeting last year in 2021. For most years, the Government of Switzerland has generously provided sponsored travel for selected national directors to allow them to participate in the meeting. Next slide. The meeting has always been held in Geneva, except on 2 occasions. For nearly 20 years, the meeting was co-hosted by the Geneva International Centre for Humanitarian Demining and held in the World Meteorological Office in their conference room. The meeting was informal in nature, which allowed for flexibility in the format and conduct, but it was only conducted in English. It had often been suggested to hold the meeting in a mine-affected country, so in 2008 it was decided to hold the meeting in Slovenia, which coincided with the 10th anniversary of the International Trust Fund, and in Croatia. In 2017, it was decided to move the meeting to the UN Palais in Geneva, and it became a more formal UN meeting. One advantage of this move was that the interpretation into the official languages was provided. In 2021, the meeting was going to be held in Bonn and hosted by Germany, but due to COVID, was held completely online. Next slide. Now turning to the major topics or themes that have been addressed at the meeting over the years. Initially, the meeting focused on country updates, along with technical and practical issues, such as types of equipment, risk education, survey and clearance. As the sector evolved, topics like strategy, standards, linking mine action to development and information management became important. Since 2018, the whole meeting has had a theme, such as advancing peace, protection and development. It's a reflection on the fact that mine action is heavily dependent on donor funds, that resource mobilisation has been a topic at nearly every meeting. I would now like to highlight just 3 points which have stuck in my mind from the past 25 years that I feel sum up the usefulness and the value of this meeting. Next slide. The first point is that this meeting has provided a great opportunity for national directors. Many national directors were government officials who were appointed to an unfamiliar role in a new sector. By coming to this meeting, the national directors were able to establish their own network, share experiences with their counterparts from different countries. One of the best presentations I heard at this meeting was in 2003, when the National Director from Mozambique, Mr. Jackie Delmeida, gave a presentation titled, "What I Expect from My United Nations Technical Advisor." The National Director reminded us that he was accountable to his government and that he had to deal with many factors, including politics, because programs dealt with money, employing people and producing valuable assets, such as cleared land. What he expected from his UN technical advisor was accurate and impartial technical advice, and always to be given a range of options. This was a powerful statement from a national director, asserting his ownership of the landmine problem in his country. Over the years, this meeting has empowered national directors and given them a voice. Just hold. The second point is that in the early years, the sector was heavily focused on clearance issues. Most of the discussions at the various meetings was about clearance, and more clearance. For example, the first standards that were produced in 1997 were called the International Standards for Humanitarian Mine Clearance. The Mine Ban Convention also spoke about the need to clear all known mined areas. However, at the National Directors meeting in 2003, David Hewitson showed this slide. He outlined that the red area at the top, we had suspected hazardous areas, and where we wanted to be was the green area at the bottom, with land released back to landowners or users. However, there were several ways to get there, as shown on the slide, through database reviews or just cancelling out erroneous areas, non-technical surveys, technical surveys, and as a last resort, full clearance. This was probably one of the most important slides ever shown at an NDM meeting, as it introduced the concept of land release, and it changed the way we spoke and acted. This concept was further discussed and developed at subsequent meetings and eventually became enshrined in the International Mine Action Standards. Next slide. The third point I wish to outline is how this meeting enabled the mine action sector to deal with and accept cross-cutting issues. Mine action NGOs were renowned for getting on with the job, but an early criticism of the sector was that it was in a silo and just concentrated on operational and technical issues. This attitude changed when the first cross-cutting issue was properly addressed. In 2005, UNMAS engaged a consultant to develop gender guidelines, which is shown on the slide. The consultant presented her findings to the National Directors meeting that year, which included suggestions like having women and men in survey teams, collecting sex disaggregated data, involving women in priority setting and post-clearance assessments. At the end of the presentation, one of the well-respected male technical advisors raised his hand and said, "I owe you an apology. I thought you were going to just tell us we had to hire women deminers, but I can see clearly now the role that gender has to play in mine action." This very public moment swayed opinion in the room to the point where gender considerations are now well accepted and addressed in mine action programs. Other cross-cutting issues like linking mine action to development, the environment, small arms, ammunition management and so on was soon taken up by mine action. Next slide. It's difficult to sum up 25 years of work in such a short time, but the National Directors meeting has always been a forum in which ideas and approaches that have become widely adopted were first presented to the sector. Although there are other fora in which innovative ideas are offered, the National Directors meeting has a combination of credibility and audience that gives it greater influence in the sector than anything else. Participants have included those officials in national mine action programs who have the authority to implement change. What became land release or the structured quality management we see today in IMAS or gender or other cross-cutting issues shows the extent to which the National Directors meeting is often an early adopter of new ideas and a powerful catalyst for change and improvement in the mine action sector. It's a testament to the value of this meeting that it is still so well attended these days. We would all like to hope that we will not need to be here in another 25 years. But sadly, given the ongoing conflicts in the world today, this meeting will probably need to continue. If it does, I hope that I'm still around to join you at the 50th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian, for this brilliant presentation.